Hi everyone, welcome back to the SG Wristwatcher channel. Today we have a exciting comparison for you. We are putting two siblings against each other, the Hamilton Khaki Field Mechanical and the Hamilton Khaki Field Automatic 38mm. In the world of field watches, I think it's safe to say that the Hamilton Khaki is the iconic name that most people think of when they are thinking of field watches. Both watches here bear the legendary Khaki name, but they differ in some crucial ways. Let's dive in. Let's start off with some history. Hamilton has a rich heritage dating back to 1892 when they began crafting precision timepieces in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. During World War I, Hamilton played a critical role in supplying pocket watches to the US military. This marked the beginning of Hamilton's involvement in military timekeeping, setting the stage for the Khaki Field collection that we know today. Fast forward to the mid-20th century and Hamilton introduced the Khaki Field collection, inspired by the watches that they supplied to American soldiers during World War II. These watches were built to withstand the harshest conditions, combining rugged durability with Swiss precision. Today, the Khaki Field continues to pay homage to its military roots, offering a blend of classic design and modern functionality. It's no wonder that these watches have become a favorite among watch enthusiasts. Now that we've explored the history of the Hamilton Khaki Field collection, let's see how both these watches stack up against each other. On the surface, both these watches look pretty similar. They are both 38mm watches with round dials and a 47mm lug-to-lug, which means that they fit well on most wrists. They also feature a cross between sword and syringe hands for high legibility and Arabic numerals on the dials. On the inner track, we can see that there's a 24-hour marking which pays tribute to its military roots. Both have a dome sapphire crystal, which you can see here, with no AR coating. Let's take a closer comparison and spot the differences between these two watches. While both watches are 38mm in diameter, the mechanical is 9.5mm high, while the automatic is 11.5mm high, so that's about 1mm plus difference. However, I can say that on the wrist, both feel equally slim, and it doesn't, perhaps in part due to the mechanical being usually worn on a knee toe. But yeah, compared to the regular Seikos, which are about 12 to 13mm, both these watches feel pretty slim because of its movement. So they have very similar dimensions. And the reason for the height difference is, as you know, the mechanical is hand winding, which doesn't require a rotor, and it has a closed case back. Whereas the Hamilton has an automatic movement, and that requires a winding rotor, which adds height to the movement. So the case of the mechanical is totally bead blasted. So you can see it has quite a dull finish, and it resembles many titanium watches, which makes sense given the toolish nature of the watch. Bead blasted surfaces are more matte, which is less reflective and therefore less likely to give away the position of the wearer to an enemy. Meanwhile, the automatic has brushed sides. You can see it's a brush finish and lugs, while having a polished bezel along the outside, which give it a slightly more dressy look. On the back, we've seen that the mechanical opts for a closed case back. Can do a simple demonstration here. Yep, you just see it's signed Hamilton and has some specs on the back. While the automatic opts for exhibition case back. So this exhibition case back is actually not sapphire, but it's mineral crystal, which helps to cut some costs. But I think it's fine given that usually you won't expect to see much wear and tear from the back because it's resting against your wrist. So one of the main surprises when comparing these two is that the mechanical actually only has 50 meters of water resistance compared to the automatic, which has 100 meters of water resistance. And the mechanical being the more tooly looking watch, it's surprised to see that actually the water resistance is lower, and 100 meters is usually the number that enthusiasts are looking for when it comes to water resistance. Okay, so speaking of the movement, the Khaki Field houses a hand-wound Swiss movement with 3 Hz beat rate and an impressive 80 hours of water resistance. 80 hours of power, and is based on the OETA 2801, which has been upgraded. Meanwhile, the Khaki Field Automatic features an automatic Swiss movement based on the reliable ETA 2824. It features an upgraded power reserve of 80 hours compared to the original 42 in the 2824. It also has if you look at the back, it also has a free sprung balance architecture for better shock absorption. It's basically almost identical to the famous Powermatic 80 movement used in the Tissot PRX, but it has a slight downgrade in that it doesn't feature the silicon balance spring, which provides better anti-magnetic resistance. So the finish on the automatic is pretty basic and industrial, which suits the theme of a tool watch. Nonetheless, I feel it's quite an upgrade compared to the raw Seiko NH35 movements, and I prefer the finish on this ETA base caliber. Okay, moving on to the downside. Here, as you can see, for the mechanical I use the white. I have a white color dial version of the mechanical, but the black is the classic version. Nonetheless, the main difference is only the colors. For the color of the loom and all that, it's almost identical to the black one. So starting with the downside, the finishing on the dial of the mechanical is simple with high matte finish for high contrast and visibility. The automatic looks pretty similar at first glance, with black and white for high contrast and visibility, but it has different textures. And if you can see over here, the middle of the dial has a sunburst finish. Let me just wipe that off. It has a slight sunburst finish, whereas on the numerals there's a concentric vinyl-like section which covers the numerals. And while the mechanical has simple second sense minutes track, you can see that on the automatic there's even finer divisions in between the minutes. Yeah, you can see. It's not very useful since it isn't a chronograph, but it does give a slightly more refined feel to the watch. One downside I find for the automatic, and it's the major complaint for this watch, is that it doesn't have an anti-reflective undercoating, and because of that, you can see that the reflections on this watch is very high, and it does affect the legibility somewhat. And yeah, it makes taking photos a real pain. So give me a second while I wipe off this crystal. Right. So something else for the automatic is that it comes with a date window at 3 o'clock, you can see, which is very useful for day-to-day life. It's white, so some people might not like that, but I find it does balance quite well with the rest of the numerals, and it sits nicely at where the 3 o'clock numeral should have been, which in contrast to the 42mm version, it looks very off balance. So I find for the 38mm variation of the Khaki is actually much more balanced. Moving on to the hands, the mechanical has this tan yellow color, which mimics a faded tritium hands and gives a vintage feel, which is similar for the black dial and black dial version of the mechanical. And the hands of the automatic are also similar in shape, but they, instead of the tan color, they actually use a crisp white color, which it feels a lot more modern. So the font, if you compare the two of the numerals between the automatic, and the automatic is much flatter and more crisp compared to the rounded numerals of the mechanical, which gives a much more vintage vibes. So the loom on both watches is pretty basic and doesn't work very well. I mean, it's sufficient, but you can't compare it to any Seiko diver, which is quite disappointing for such a famous field watch. I think it applies equally for both models. Moving on to the straps, the mechanical comes on this nice olive colored NATO strap with leather keepers, and you can see they actually put in some effort to put the leather keepers on the hole to make sure that it doesn't stretch out, and which is pretty nice and fits the toolish nature of the watch. The automatic, okay, this isn't the original Hamilton strap which was provided, but it's kind of pretty similar to what they provide, and it's much more neutral with a neutral brown calf skin, which is more versatile. I also bought this the automatic on a bracelet, which it originally came on, and the quality is pretty good. You can see it has solid end links and nice milk clasp, and you can see the metal, the gauge of the metal is really thick, which is good. The main downside of this bracelet is that there's only 2 holes of micro adjust, which I find insufficient. They should have done, this could easily fit 2 or 3 more holes, and it wouldn't really cost Hamilton much to do the drilling, but it will provide a lot more flexibility for the wearer. So it's something that Hamilton could easily fix, and I think they should. So having compared these two, which is the better watch for you? I feel that the mechanical is a better choice for the enthusiast who is looking for a field watch to fill his collection. Reason being that being hand winding, it caters more to the enthusiast who enjoys interacting with the watch. The bead blasted case also screams more of a tool watch to be used for outdoor adventures. The only downside, which I feel, is the 50 meters of water resistance, which doesn't live up to such iconic field watch. The automatic meanwhile is a better choice if you're looking for a good all-round go anywhere do anything watch. You can see that the looks wise is a lot more refined. It can be dressed up or for the office, but it still function well even if you are bringing it outdoors. With its automatic winding and date window, it's also more practical for everyday life. So which Hamilton is right for you? Ultimately, it comes down to your preference and priorities. If you are an enthusiast looking for the definitive field watch, the mechanical should be your go-to choice. However, if this is your first mechanical watch, or if you are looking for a convenience of an everyday wearer, the automatic is better for you. So with the price of Seikos going up, I think these Hamilton Khakis, which can be picked up about 500 Singapore dollars pre-owned, excellent value due to the better Swiss movements that they carry. Both watches have been coming in at less than 5 seconds a day accuracy for me, and whichever choice you pick, you are getting a high quality rugged timepiece which can be a perfect companion for you for any adventure. So let me know in the comments which one you prefer and why. And that's it for today's comparison. If you enjoyed this video, please do the usual stuff, give it a like, give it a thumbs up, and let me know what other videos you are looking for, and if I have the time, I will try to do more videos. Hope you enjoyed it and found it useful. Thank you, and signing off for today.